Hello and welcome to the show. I am back on BeamNG Drive, testing out more of your automation vehicles. We start with the Exile Superwagon, this built by Trofeo, rear-wheel drive V8 in this, some 340 horsepower, just over 200 torque. It is a little bit heavy at under 1,400 kilos, basically. It's kind of quite a large vehicle. It has got a mighty wing, which is always good. It has got some pretty sizable tyres. Yeah, we got push rod at the back, double wishbone at the front. It's probably going to be okay. I wouldn't expect it, with the weight, I wouldn't expect it to be too oversteery, so we might be okay getting around here fairly well, or I might be wrong, we might have lots of oversteer. The issues the car is probably going to have is, well, the power to weight ratio is a little low, which means acceleration, either out of corners or down the back straight, likely to be a touch slow, considering, I mean, some of the fastest cars going around here have had around the 300 horsepower mark, but they've tended to be half the weight of this. So, yeah, that power to weight ratio, it is very, very important. Let's get the downside with a big estate. As much as I love a good, fast estate car, they are quite long, and long wheelbases for a course like this, not particularly what you want. Well, you get a little bit of stability, which is nice. You just don't get that as sharper a change in direction, essentially. And again, considering lots of cars all-wheel drive don't really have stability issues around this sort of course. As we head on to the back straight, what are we going to see straight line speed-wise? I mean, 90 plus is very fast. About mid-low 80s is average. Yeah, as expected, really. It's not the slowest we've seen, certainly, but I mean, the 200cc engine was almost as fast as this down the back straight, because that was in a car that weighed less than 400 kilos. So, yeah, you see the issue with the estate car. It's certainly not badly balanced around here for a rear-wheel drive car. A 28.7 is actually not a too shabby. That one, definitely, that was definitely an English word of some description, some way. Yeah. Either way, the performance isn't terrible. I don't know if we'll be able to go much faster. Like, this is one of those that smoothness is going to be, what, at the end of the day, smoothness is important with just about everything, but especially when you've got a car like this, especially with the rear-wheel drive cars as well. It's very easy to lose a lot of time sliding the back of the car around. A lot of people think that using the handbrake is going to help cars around here. It really doesn't. Not with the level of grip most of the cars have got from. I mean, most things are running semi-slick tyres and so on, and A, they don't even slide very well, and B, you just end up wasting so much time. You're just sliding around, not going forward. I think we only had one car where it's really been essential to slide it, but that was because it was an understeer, it just didn't turn, and it was all-wheel drive, and you could get away with sort of putting power down in a car like this. You start sliding it, it's just going to waste all of its time wiggling the rear. In a couple of places where you've seen it go just a smidge, you can see how much time would be lost if you let it just sit and wiggle the rear around. That's okay through there. It's 72 miles an hour. Brakes are pretty solid. In fact, the rear brake's actually getting a little hot down there, but it is the only place that really needs a big stamp on the brakes. I mean, down here as well does need a bit of a stamp on the brakes. The front brakes aren't getting too hot though, which is, I guess, the important thing really for this, and it is only the very end of the run. That's a bit better time, 27.8. We've done interesting things to the front of the car. Very interesting things to the front of the vehicle there. Are the brakes tiny on this? Just out of curiosity. Wow, the rear brakes are piddly. No wonder they're overheating. Christ, someone's nicked the brakes of a bike. Front brakes aren't much better. You know, I mean, it's a good thing that this thing isn't going fast, because otherwise those brakes would cause it a lot of trouble. If this was going any sort of speed, those brakes would, well, I mean, overheat. I don't think we've ever seen rear brakes overheating before front. I guess the front are like vented and everything. The rear are just a solid disc and are absolutely tiny. Well, we're going to get some big sliding through there. A 27 is, considering the size and weight of the car, rear-wheel drive, 27 is not too bad. Getting sub-30s with some of these cars is, you know, fairly good going. The wing, I'm not sure how much the wing is doing at the back. It's an impressive wing, that much is for sure. We've got cannons out of the side. I mean, it's kind of like a battleship. Just need a few more along each side, and then we'll have a proper old-time frigate or something. I don't know much about old boats. They're cool. I'm talking about boats. I mean, it's fitting really in the context. Just many side cannons is the way to go. Well, that's a big tweet. I actually kind of got away with that, with the way that the rear end let go. I mean, we lose a... No, actually, no, we kept about similar speed down the back straight. With the rear end let go, but it actually let go in a helpful enough way at that particular moment in time. That, not a helpful oversteer moment. We have just about caught it, though, down towards the final of the big braking zones. Another big oversteer moment that I don't particularly want. Gear ratios, I will say, are pretty good in this car. That's a very, very similar runtime. Gear ratio is pretty solid. Overall, not a bad car. Overall, not a bad car at all. It is a little bit on the underpowered side, and if it was any more powerful, if that was any quicker, that would have real problems with brakes, because they would be burnt to smithereens by the end of the run. As it is, it's going slow enough that you can just about get away with it. And there we go. Our next contender through the course has again got big side... In fact, if anything, we've got bigger side cannons. We've got a... I don't know what was bigger than the last... I think I said frigate last time. We've got a bigger cannon anyway on our car. This comes from Shiniod. It is the Daria. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly or any of it correctly, but I've had a go. This all-wheel drive turbocharged V8, although it does have slightly less power than our previous car. This is 312 horsepower. Still not too bad in terms of power. It does have more torque, though, at 250. Fractionally lighter, about 100 kilo lighter at 1,294. Still a little bit on the heavy side of things. Now, the all-wheel drive, of course, will mean we will have, with this amount of power... Oh, that's actually got its normal manual gearbox. I was expecting much shorter gear ratios. It's actually got sensible gear ratios. Oh, Christ, I think that's... Oh, we've broken the steering. You know what, fuck it, let's just start again. Up next, we have got more side cannons from this... They might even be bigger side cannons. I mean, there's still only one each side. It wouldn't make for a great fighting vessel. However, still some big side cannons. This comes from Shiniod. It is the Daria. I don't know if I'm pronouncing any of that correctly. Gave it a go. This is me we're talking about. Don't expect good pronunciations. It is a all-wheel drive turbocharged V8 car. Not as much power as our last vehicle, 312. However, there is more torque at just under 250. It is also quite heavy at 1,294 kilos. It's about 100 kilos lighter than the Super Wagon, but, you know, we're still talking about power-to-weight ratio not amazing. Of course, all-wheel drive is good in terms of traction. We should get out of these corners without any, well, problems from the car in terms of... We're not going to see the car oversteering. There's not enough power. We have seen all-wheel drive cars oversteering. However, this is not going to have enough power to overload the all-wheel drive and to overload the huge slicks that are around on the vehicle. It does seem to be struggling out of these tight hairpins. It seems like... Well, the gear ratios are pretty solid in terms of first gear is kind of usable. The power is only quite high up, it feels. Like here, it's really struggling at 20 miles an hour out of those corners. And considering most of the corners are, well, you know, 20 mile an hour exit speeds, that's an issue. Once it does get going, it seems alright, but yeah, you need more punch out of the slower corners. Suspension-wise, actually feels fairly like a normal car. It actually has grip without being ultra stiff. We don't think we would see any wheel wobble from the car. Straight line speed pretty similar to what we saw from the Super Wagon, actually. And we are out of the roundabout towards the big hairpin. No braking issues with this vehicle whatsoever. Temperatures all in a happy zone. Car slowing down as you would expect. And we will run towards the finish line. And it's a 23.9. And the wings come off and the wheels come off as it skids along on its door. I actually thought that might have ended up a little bit slower, so that's not a bad lap time or run time, if you like. A car like this is always going to struggle with that lack of acceleration. You know, when you're going up against fully custom, I say fully custom, when you go against cars with as much power, sometimes even slightly more power, and again, half the weight of this, you're not going to ever be able to accelerate like they can, and ultimately you're not going to be able to turn as they can. This just got less weight moving through the corners. What this does with its weight is pretty damn good, and again, this, well, okay, this one's on the slicks, I believe. I actually just checked afterwards, but yeah, while this is more of a more normal road car, if you like, it is more of a, I say more normal road car. I've got giant side cannons, but yeah, it's more of a sensibly engineered vehicle, if you like. We're going to be a little bit wide through all of there, but that's all right. Then we unleash the car down the back straight. We got a better run this time around, fractionally better, down to or up to 75 miles an hour. Still, you know, not breaking any speed records. A little bit of understeer around the loop. The low end, yeah, that low end power is an issue. It's nice having sensible gear ratios in a car. However, they are actually a smidge. I think this is the first time I've really seen long gear ratios be a problem for something. Yeah, it is on semi-slick tyres. I thought it was. In general, if the car's getting turned in this well, it's probably on semi-slick tyres. We have seen a couple of cars make very good use of normal road tyres. Ultimately, on an autocross course, semi-slick tyres are very, very important if you're going to be wanting to run anywhere even vaguely close towards the top. It just makes such a huge difference trying to get around these technical parts of the circuit. There's another car where I'm not sure where I'm going to make up time with it. I'm not sure where I'm going to make up. It's not difficult to drive, which is nice. You know, some of the cars we've had have been utter death traps, especially whatever it was that went out last time, the Hotline, I think it was. That thing was a mad death machine of near undrivableness. This is, you know, certainly not that. They're actually going to come out with fairly similar lap times in all of this, unless I can make a lot of time up. Again, it's a case of trying to be smooth with the car, try and not shrug off too much speed through these corners. When you've got a car that can't accelerate quite as well, that can be very, very useful if you can just keep that momentum up through some of the tighter sections. And we are on to the back straight once more. Have we got a better run down here? Well, we got 76 miles an hour, slightly better before I jumped on the brakes. Got to make sure I go down to first through all of that. And then we run towards the final of the big braking zones. Actually spot on through there. Yeah, it's a nice car to be able to position it exactly where you want. Just want that little bit more get-go out of the corners. That's actually a pretty good final run. That's a hell of a final run. 22.7. Yeah, that's pretty damn impressive for a vehicle, you know, with quite a bit of weight behind it and not massively powerful. You can position it so nicely through a lot of the corners, and that was a exquisite final run to have got that much speed. Also, I'm not quite sure how I bent that wheel but not damaged. Don't ask. I broke it anyway. So we move on next to, well, two slightly more serious contenders, if we like, certainly by looking at the stats. This vehicle is the Himmelblau Sarg. I don't know how on earth, Himmelblau? I don't know. It's a Mini, essentially, built by Scrum, all-wheel drive, i5 powered. 279 horsepower does make it the least powerful car that runs today, and 184 torque, but it is also the lightest, 615 kilos. It is half the weight of that last car that ran. Incredibly light. There's push rod suspension at the rear, massive tyres. We might see some wheel wobble, which is a little bit of a concern. This thing is going to, I imagine, be very fast. This is the sort of car that you expect to be very fast. Now, it has got some of that all-wheel drive oversteer. There is a little bit of wheel wobble. I saw the front wheel going through that first corner. As long as it doesn't go in the braking zone, we'll probably be okay. If it goes in the braking zone, that's where we see the ABS failures, and that makes the car very, very difficult to drive if you're never sure if the brakes are going to work. It might actually be doing it a little bit. Jesus, it's so quick getting out of these corners that the beam camera is really struggling to keep up with it. Naturally aspirated i5 means that we have got plenty of power just about everywhere. I've also noticed, or only just noticed as I started running it, this has also got a side exit exhaust. It's not quite side cannons at the back. It's got a side exit out the front left. There we go. Sure, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with some more side exit exhaust. I mean, this would be beaten in the battleship battles by the other ones, but only slightly. What we had speed, good God, it is fast down there. That's about 95 miles an hour. Of course, the speedo there is wheel speed rather than airspeed. It is not the most accurate thing in the world, but it is the same for all cars. So if this is reading 95 and everything else has been doing, well, 75s, you get the idea. This is very quick. What we're going to see lap time, 18.0 as a start. That's an impressive spin as well. That's an impressive spin from the Mini. We've done incredibly bad things to the chassis, but there we go. Yeah, I mean, that was always likely to be quick. I fear we might be lacking a little bit of ultimate control in this car. Like there, for example, we're seeing a little bit more oversteer from the Mini than we were perhaps like. Although if I can get everything under control, there's just a lot of speed available in this car. Still, while we haven't had the big brake failures, I'm still a tad nervous that the Mini might. I can't even look at the speedo through a lot of these corners because the car is just going so fast. That was seriously impressive through there. I might have actually slowed down a little bit too much into that corner. Yeah, it's quick. It's quick everywhere, and this is why the 600 kilo cars, it might not have the most powerful engine. Sometimes going for a smaller, lighter engine is important. You saw how well the 200cc engine did. That's 69 horsepower, yet it could go faster than a lot of much more, on paper sensible cars because it weighed so little. It's just so little mass to try and get around these corners. And if the rest of the car is set up well, etc., yeah, you can get away with it. I'm just watching this under brake. It's a touch sketchy with the whole slowing down thing. It does seem to judder a little bit. 17.2 from the Mini. That's almost another second taken off the time. We do need to find a further second if we are going to go towards the top. 16.1 is our current leader. And I think this might be just a little bit too slidey to go and really take on the very fastest cars, but it is pretty damn close. I will give it that. It is. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun in the. It might be a slightly scary death machine, but it's a very, very fast one at that. It's probably not the easiest of the fast cars to drive, but it's certainly an entertainment. We'll make for a very good Gymkhana car if that is what you are after. Make for a very good Gymkhana car because it has got that oversteer while still being nice and controlled. Now through here, there we go. Again, maybe not quite as fast as last time, but I'm hoping I can be neater maybe through this next section. I'm trying to find time. When you've got a car like this, trying to find time on that final run without binning it in a wall is not the easiest of things. You want to be brave, of course, but it's no good being brave if you've just pile-drived it into the concrete barrier. So we've got to try and be a little bit careful. That was quite nice around there. Get on that power nice and early as we head down the back straight. 92 miles an hour this time around. Maybe not quite as fast as some of the earlier runs. I'm just hoping for better control through earlier places. Again, you can see as I'm trying to get on that power earlier now out of some of these corners. So you try to dump all 280 odd horsepower out all of the wheels. It might be a bit more rear biased. It's gone quicker again, but it isn't going to be enough to go fastest. 16.6, yeah, it's. The back end is lively. The back end is lively on that. Even as an all-wheel drive car, you could see in a few places it was just slithering away from the corners. You can't quite mash the throttle as you have with some. That being said, the lightness, the grip through the technical sections is immense, and that is enough to put the car into the 16s. And yeah, with a seriously quick time. Not quite fast enough though to go to the top. And our final vehicle today is slightly juddering with excitement. Apparently this is the Super Trofeo Time Attack, comes from Elect Deathblade. Now, all-wheel drive, V6, turboed V6 in fact, near 500 horsepower, just under 300 torque, makes it the, most powerful car of the day. It is heavier, though not as bad as some, but it does weigh just over 1,000 kilos, which might give it some grief around a course like this. There is very impressive scaffolding at the back. Lots of side cannons on this. Apparently it's been a day for side exit exhausts, and many silly side exit exhausts. And kind of silly wings as well. I'm not sure about the snowplow at the front. I'm not sure it's going to stay on the car, I'll be honest with you, but we'll give it a try. We'll see what the vehicle is capable. Oh, it doesn't really stop. Now, I don't know. Okay, there is some big old vibrations. It does not really seem to stop. Now, what won't help this is, of course, it has got very cold brakes. So it looks like we've got some big vented. Are they vented? Are they carbon steel? I'm not sure. There you go. It's got big brakes all around. Of course, big race brakes don't really like being cold. It does make them a little bit difficult on the first bits. The issue with this, though, is it feels like it might be juddering so much from the wheels, essentially, that we are just going to not really have any braking before. Oh, that doesn't stop. That car does not, really doesn't stop anywhere. I'm going to have to investigate the brake size, see if it's got silly wonky brake sizes or something after the run, because that is, again, it's like we have seen, is people have put on too smaller brakes. Essentially, Beam will say your brake force is too high and so on if you're building the car. Whoa, that is so fast down there. Seriously quick down there, but not controlled with it. Yeah, Beam will say, you know, like brake force is very high compared to grip and so on, and sure, maybe for a road car, but for Autocross, ignore any of that information. You need as good a brakes as you can possibly get on the car. Balls that all up. It's going to be an okay sort of a time across the line. Oh yeah, I've seen the issue with the brakes. It is not an ABS thing. Well, certainly the rear brakes are tiny. The front brakes are okay. Rear brakes are piddly. Okay. Maybe it might be a bit of both. It might be a bit of both. Combination. I mean, 22.3 on the first run with a lot of braking issues is yeah, not a bad start. I don't know, unfortunately, if I can do much about the bridge. It doesn't, even though I don't think it was vibrating. I don't think there was wheel wobble going on. I just don't think, it certainly does through there. I just don't think the brakes are perhaps up to scratch, but there we go. I guess we're just going to try and make the most of where the car is strong. Acceleration is pretty good. Well, that's the scary thing. Acceleration is good in this car, which means you're then going very quickly towards a corner, which you can't stop for. Grip levels seem pretty solid. This is going to be one of those, I've seen a few cars, which is actually very difficult to judge how fast you're going, or sometimes very difficult to push even, because you're busy worrying about, oh, well, wings apparently held on by one bit of 3-week-old sellotape. It's not quite what you want to fit, especially a wing that's that large onto the back of a car with. We have seen wings ping off before. It normally takes a little bit more than that, or it's got a completely broken wonky wing sort of setting, but there we go. It is so ferociously fast down there, but it's so uncontrollable when you unleash the power. That is a very, very big crash. We've lost an exhaust. I love that we've only lost one exhaust. You can limp your way to the finish. Maybe. Oh, or maybe not. Oh, maybe not. We might actually be able to recover that car. There's so much, the tyres are so huge and there's so much grip it can actually drag itself back over. Come on, you can complete, this won't be the slowest time either, considering we've had a massive crash, a huge roll, had to bounce the car back onto its wheels. We're going to finish on 3 wheels. Here we go, on 3 wheels in a 1:40.9. It definitely won't be the slowest car to run through the course. Right. Unleashing that power down the rear straight is terrifying. It doesn't. This would be probably a over 100-mile-an-hour car if it had the control to be an over 100-mile-an-hour car. Could probably do it. The control in general everywhere with this is just not there. The brakes make it very difficult to judge any of the cornering. Oh, bloody hell! It's not bad through the turns, but its inability to slow down kind of puts pay to a lot of the speed. I'm slightly going for late apexes with this car, more as a reaction to oh crap, I'm not stopping than choice. I mean, I guess it does kind of work if we're trying to make up time with acceleration. We can just focus the car on that exit zone rather than worrying too much about getting through the corners. It's definitely not going to be a slow car around here when you've got this level of power and what is a pretty damn good level of grip, but could be a lot faster with a little bit more control. I mean, I want to unleash the car down here, but I just don't trust it at all down there. It is definitely a very quick car, but I don't have any confidence in it. And when that confidence is gone, when you have a limited number of runs, you've got to go for actually get a clean run in at the end of the day. Third gear across the line should be good. It's a 21.4. I mean, you can see what those wheels are doing. See how much in super slow-mo you can see how much the front wheels are wobbling as they skid across the tarmac. They'll probably tear themselves off if they want. If you gave them half a chance. Yeah, the front wing, I don't know how much the front wing is doing. It certainly wobbles and vibrates. Here we go. You can see how much it's going. Man, it is a bonker. There's some bodywork flapping as well, but it's a mad little contraption. Very, very fast, but on a course like this, far too difficult to keep control of. So on to the results, and we have another vehicle into the top 10. Seems to have changed quite a lot over the last few episodes. The Himmelblau will go into 4th place. Can't quite crack the top 3. The 116s are starting to get crowded now. We are starting to see the top of the table get really, really rather crowded. I wonder what it'll take. Well, when we might see a car get into the 15s. We have to go a little bit further down. This is kind of towards the more higher end of the mid-table, but the Super Trofeo Time Attack will go into a 46th place. Very, very difficult to drive. That car, very difficult. In fact, it goes ahead of one car. The Storm Jackal is one of the fastest rear-wheel drive cars, and that was also very, very difficult to drive in a completely different way. But two very difficult to drive cars in the mid-table. Again, just about everywhere in this table is now pretty damn close. The Zerello will go into a 60th place. Considering the sort of power to weight ratio things of that car, it didn't feel outstandingly fast. It just was, though, if you got everything right. It actually breaks up the little rear-wheel drive section. Here we had a table wing special and so on. Again, we're talking a few hundredths separating the various vehicles. We do have to go a fair bit further down to find the Exile Superwagon. That will be a 93rd place with its 27.7. It just beats the big Boaty McBoatface. This very much a kind of rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive. There are a couple of all-wheel drive cars that have struggled with various reasons and so on. But yeah, it's not a terrible time, 27.7, not a terrible time for a big estate car, but it is very much in the lower echelons of the table. That, though, is going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.